1.
This is Off Planet Radio.
And we welcome you back to part 2 of our interview. We have on the line with us several people tonight. You just heard the first segment with our guest, quantum healer Chris Kehler, and Chris is still on the line with us. And for me, it is sometimes the most difficult and yet the most rewarding conversations that I have with people who have been involved with extraterrestrial contact. However, people define that, because many people have different definitions of what is extraterrestrial contact. Some people actually have had wonderful times with them, and other people it's been quite horrific. I think our guest tonight is able to both quantify and qualify why he needed to seek help from a healer in order to get out from underneath this. You heard us talk a little bit about alien implants, and that's a subject that both creeps me out and really fascinates me, and I'm not sure which is worse. Anyway, I want to welcome to the line on this hour our guest Whisper. Welcome.
Hey Randy, how you doing?
It's good to have you on, my friend, and you are, among friends here, because this is a subject I take deadly serious, and I have over the years talked to a number of people who have had interactions. Let's start by you giving us an outline of your own experiences, where they began, what they were, how they manifested.
Well, things kind of opened up for me all within a few days. Basically, I started hearing whispers, just voices, but it was very light, way in the background. And then all of a sudden, I'm outside cutting the grass, and I'm hearing full-on voices like it's someone talking right beside me. And I'm like, the first thing I thought is, man, we're going to use this to save the world. But it scared me. It scared me to death because I had no idea what it was. Within a day or so, I was watching a movie on an older style tube TV, 36-inch TV. It was the latest and the greatest of its time, 12 years ago or whatever. And something told me to hit pause on the TV, and there was a building paused, and it said, see if you can move it around. So what I did is I just focused on it and started bending lines on the TV, just with thought. Mm-hmm. And someone said, oh, I can't even remember what they were impressed or whatever, whoever the voice was. That night I went to sleep, and something started to, it felt like put a screw through 3 of my teeth. Okay. And the next day, I tried the pause technique on the TV again, and when I paused it, it uses a photon gun hitting a shadow mask to create a picture, the old style TVs.
Yeah. The old
Anything
CRTs.
between me, yeah, exactly. Between me and the TV, I could see them, and I could see their entire facial outline on the TV screen when I hit pause on...
in the scan lines of the TV image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it was a really weird situation. Something attacked whatever they were in my bedroom and stabbed their eyes out. Or was stabbing them in the eyes. And they looked like grays, except one sort of had a little bit more of a hammerheady look, not exactly like the TV style grays, but 3.5 feet tall. And something attacked them, and they asked me to raise my hands, and I knew nothing about energy or energy work. I've taken several healing modalities since then, just trying to figure out how I could help myself. But back then, they asked me to hold my hands up, and I could feel them push their face right against my hand with their eyeballs in the palms of my hands, looking for some kind of healing. And I don't know if that's why they put the screws through my teeth or what. But that's how it started for me. And
okay,
then
let me back you up a minute here.
Sure.
The screws in the teeth, are we talking this is actual physical, or is this happening in the...
feel it physically, the threads going through the teeth, which obviously isn't going to happen in a physical way because it would bust your teeth, I think. But I could feel them screwing into the through the back 3 teeth on the top teeth on the left-hand side and right up into the jawbone. And it wasn't like a zzz with a drill. It was like someone doing it almost with a screwdriver. It was done very slowly, like they were tuning something. And it wasn't really painful. And I was kind of thinking, well, should I get out of bed and run? Or is this just too cool of an experience to, because it didn't really hurt. It was just an intrusion into my personal being. But I was kind of in a headspace at the time that I just thought it was kind of cool that they'd even show that kind of an interest. A little while later, I went, at that point though, I did seek medical help because voices were coming in left, right, and center once those screws went into my teeth.
Right.
And I was like just overwhelmed. I thought, oh my God, I'm nuts. First thing I said, I actually booked myself into a crisis center in the city and got out of Dodge. Saw a psychiatrist there, said, you're for sure suffering from a psychosis, and we're going to put you on antipsychotics. So I went on antipsychotics, and the voices drifted back down into a whisper. Got to a point where I could, function normally again. And then something said, I want you to learn energy work. And they dragged me to a particular website of a guy who teaches astral travel and stuff like that. And he had a really interesting and easy way of learning how to maneuver and work with energy. And as soon as I did that, something popped full on. And I was hearing voices, and I was getting attacked, and I was getting stabbed by things and feeling knives going through me. And it was like I awoke a bunch of stuff that was in there that hadn't gone through the proper clearing. And I was on an energy high for about 3 days, and then stuff started jumping off of people into me because I was a hot spot. And I was working with this woman, and we were on a 2-hour car ride from a city just outside of Winnipeg, heading back into Winnipeg, and we both just felt terrible. And I looked down, and from my stomach to her stomach was about it was twice the thickness of a fire hose of green energy that was visible with the naked eye.
Like a plasma tube?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all kinds of like tentacles firing off of it and all kinds of stuff. And as it turned out, I found out later that as a child she had practiced black magic and witchcraft and Satan worship and done all kinds of black magic on people in her town in the East Coast. And I figured that was whatever was in me doing battle with whatever she had picked up in her youth. And it turned into just like a major battle royal using our bodies as a as a conduit, or it was
kind of like
battlefield, using us as the battlefield, and things just got nuts from there. I was able to work for about a year, and I was working at a store where I could take a customer and then actually go and lie down for an hour if I wanted. It was selling beds, and yeah.
Wasn't those ones that you set buttons on to make the density different? Was it?
Yeah, we have all that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, I can't even remember what it's.
Yeah, the sleep numbers.
Sleep number bed, right?
Yes.
You're a 78. You'll sleep well tonight. But anyways, over that next year, they started just drilling the heck out of me, and they almost set it up where they could get me to. They'd work a pattern on me, and I remember they did it so often that I remember it being 12 or 13 steps to get me to rage out and go into this just outburst of anger and flare energy. Fight psychically is what they were teaching me.
Let me get a time frame on this. How old were you at the onset?
33.
Okay.
I'm 44 now.
Okay.
So that's
interesting. 33. Wow.
Yeah. is when it started happening. And so since then, there's been all kinds of different contacts or voices claiming to be definitely Zetas, and I can douse and see if they're there, and they're there. If a reptilian jumps into me, my solar plexus, the breastplate, actually pops out. Okay, I can say reptilian out, hit my leg, and it kicks it right out, because it's like what Chris was saying. Once it's recognized and you ask it to leave, it has to leave. I've had voices saying, I'm Arcturian and I've been indwelling in you since you were born. Same with Anunnaki. So it's just like a myriad of, I don't know. It's like they're portaling in and out of me, basically. And then I'm also noticing that just walking down the street, I'll start picking up imprints of people, almost seeing them getting sucked out of their body into mine. Yeah. And I don't know what it is, if it's a device or just being energetically magnetic or what, but it's, I don't know. It's just a very weird situation. But anyways, I've seen so many healers over this. One was like $600 for a session. One was worked with me for a long time and was $85 an hour, doing all kinds of different stuff. I saw Chris for about 5 minutes, and it almost brought it to a standstill with one of his tools. He just threw it at me, said, "I don't have time to talk to you. Take this and work with it." One of the neutralization rings. It was a little 6-inch ring with a bunch of pins on it. On my drive home, I sat on it, and it sucked probably 80% of it out, just like that. Wow. Yeah. So it's been pretty neat, but it's almost like they're passing me around a little bit. It almost feels like it's been set up. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't see myself ever wearing a tinfoil hat. Oh, that's good, because that's my job around here. Okay. No offense. No. But it's almost like they still run patterns to get me to sort of rage out, and it's almost like they do it and then they throw their enemies at me and let me do the fighting for them, and which is disconcerting. It reminds me very much of a Manchurian Candidate, but on a psychic level. It's like they've trained me to be this psychic warrior of sorts, be it with just whatever type of energy or etheric weapon. Well, the conspiracy theorist in me says that that's where that came from in the first place. Okay. There's a huge amount of overlap between Manchurian Candidate type scenarios that are real world and alien abduction type phenomena. So that's a very dead on accurate kind of analogy. That's kind of where I'm putting it, and it's very much like it's a psychological experiment to them more than anything else. But it's I feel like I'm sucking in people's imprints as I walk by, but it feels like they're pulling them out of me, which is really disconcerting for me. It's like they're using me as a collection chamber type of thing, and then grabbing what they want and then ripping astral doubles or energetic copies and having whatever drive them around and do whatever they want. Because I keep on hearing from people that are claiming to be physical as well with telepathy. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, I'm talking to you, but something that looks like you is here right now. And so it's just all kinds of weird different scenarios like that. It sounds so nutty that it's almost not nuts. And I'm like totally grounded person. The story's kind of neat and interesting, but it's not like I'm wrapping my life around it or anything or living in some total fantasy world. This stuff is happening to me and I'm physically feeling it. And let me ask you this, Whisper. How did this impact you physically in terms of your overall just physical health? I do major clearing work and major stress management with meditation, and now a lot with the tools that Chris is showing you. Okay. Prior to the time that Chris worked with you, were you getting suffering any physical side effects? Were you obviously having sleep problems? Sleep problems, unable to work because they take so much of my mental time up. And they can do things like stun your brain and, and keep their little scenarios running while you're trying to do anything. I've actually started doing a little bit of work, working for a friend for a few hours a night. And there's been times where I've sat there for 2 hours, unable to do pretty simple tasks while these things have, basically been doing
They're
stuff to
basically hacking you and stealing clock cycles from your brain.
pretty much, and using me as a hub is what it feels like.
Okay.
To connect to other people, whether it be for a battery to launch attacks, collect data, whatever. I don't know what they're doing exactly, but all of those scenarios have come up verbally. So
Now, in all of your experiences, most of this is occurring on the energetic level, and I'm not dismissing that at all because that's as real as any physical experience. Have you, in your recollection, any remembrance of having physical contact or abduction experiences, sleep paralysis, any of that?
2 nights ago, I was not asleep, but very much in tune with a version of me that was on a ship with a bunch of other people under what would look like a dome, sort of like from the movie Avatar.
Right.
But just imagine them in a circle. Okay. And communicating with that particular aspect of me or whatever. So it wasn't a physical abduction because I was there, but it's almost like they're ripping copies or making clones or something like that.
We'll see a lot of people that we tend to think of this as all physical. And I asked some very specific questions, both because of my own experience and because over the years of interviewing people, I've kind of honed in on a couple of things. It's like when Chris and I were talking in the first segment about healing and how allopathic medicine focuses on the physical component. And we dismiss anything outside of what would be called a real physical abduction as not being, quote, real. But what I was trying to get at with you is that this is a real abduction, in my opinion. It is no less real if it occurs astrally, energetically, ethereally, or in any other form.
Oh, absolutely.
And I wanted to get a sense if you had a feeling that this was maybe something that went on for a long time with you that maybe you even don't have recall of, or you're getting recall, or you're beginning to account for missing time incidents and things like that.
A year ago, I woke up at 2 p.m. after having a sleep that I didn't really remember. I went back to sleep for an hour and I woke up 10 a.m. on the same day.
That's pretty missing time, dude. Okay.
But they didn't put me back right in.
They never
put
do.
Back early.
Yeah. Yeah. They forgot. Your insertion point's supposed to be before you left.
Yeah, it was. It was like 5 hours before I left.
Yeah.
So I never told anyone that story, actually. But waking up at 2 p.m. on a day where you're supposed to have something to do at 4 o'clock and then falling back asleep for a half an hour and waking up at 10 the same morning is a little disconcerting. But anyways, nothing surprises me anymore. I've had so many wacky experiences over the last 10 or 12 years. I can't even remember half of them. Like something like that you would think wouldn't slip your mind. But until you mentioned missing time, it wasn't something I was dwelling on. It's just something that happened. So,
well, that's the weird aspect of this type of experience is there's a lot of triggers to memory.
Right.
And those triggers will represent different insertion points when you're being taken. And I'm always interested in a specific memory that people get because it's just part of my data gathering process.
Right. Yeah, it's, I don't know. I probably got 1 million of them, let's put it that way, of similar little weird experiences that have happened to me. And there's been times when they've kept me busy from the second I've woken up, just mentally running whatever these scenarios are through my head. And they're repetitive, like just over and over and over and over. And the odd time they'll switch something out or they'll change a voice. But it got to a point where I was just listening to what they said. And then I'd be going like, okay, and now he's going to say, and now he's going to say, and it doesn't really feel like a psychosis. It feels like they're running a program that's sometimes broken through me. It's there's so many weird different little scenarios, but they often keep me going first thing in the morning until the second I fall asleep, nonstop. And it's definitely gotten better since I've started working with Christopher there. So he's helped immeasurably.
I'll just say this. The conversation we just had is one that I have fairly often. And most people will not be heard saying this on an interview. My ratio of people who talk to me about their experiences and actually do an interview is like 1 to 10.
Well, you'll notice the name I'm using, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and the reason for that is this can be very uncomfortable.
Well, you know, I've never really talked about it, even with Chris, not to this depth. I don't think he has any idea of this aspect of my story. And, you know, we've always just gone to work on whatever the particular symptom of the day was. But, yeah, it's kind of nice to actually talk about it. And, you know, especially with someone who's had similar experiences or experiences with other people. So this is awesome. Yeah.
So you've been working with Chris for how long now, Whisper?
4 months, maybe. But it's only been a couple of visits. He's actually teaching me his techniques right now, and I've bought several of the tools that he uses. I've taken a few healing modalities myself, like reconnective healing, pranic healing, and quantum touch. And what he's doing there, like when he talks about not using the hands, I think most healers are just about any ailment has an entity attachment to it. Just about every single one you're going to run into. And I look at the tools more as using gloves to do the work, right, than wanting to even be hands-on now, because things are so stirred up and we're so close to the astral vibration. They're noticing us now. We're not just ghosts to them. They're seeing many of us.
Oh, that's a real interesting statement. We're not just ghosts to them. You see, that is something that you just put words to. That's a thought that I've had for a long time, that we don't seem as real to them in the same way that they don't seem real to us. It's almost like we're dancing with some sort of ghostly image.
Yeah, absolutely. And those veils are getting very thin for them and for us.
Yep.
And
amen, brother.
You know, and if you're into energy work or light work or anything where you're actually doing energy work, guaranteed your chakra system is charged up, and they are seeing you as a little string of lights a lot of time, they've said. But they're definitely taking notice. And as we just sort of move around, you just got to move your head, and you can, I feel energy so sensitively. I can feel when one's there and bump it. I'm not actually seeing clairvoyantly. Most of my stuff is clairaudient.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you felt energy shifts as you move around, or if you see ripples.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Ripples. Okay. I'll see little squares moving around, like a white one.
Like pixelations.
Yeah, little pixels, exactly. What else do I see? I see people's auras now like there's no tomorrow, you know. Yeah. And not a ton of color or anything, but just a clear energy band around people. And oftentimes now I'm starting to get glimpses of the hitchhikers that people have, which is a little disconcerting as well. And those tools that I call the gloves are very good at clearing them out and getting them out of the higher, off into higher aspects.
So you're watching people sometimes shift in real time. You can actually see like the changes on their face, or not just in their field, but they will actually like shift.
Oh, absolutely. And there are schools of thought out there that say 80% of the emotions we feel are not our own, and 50% of the thoughts we have are not our own. And it's just stuff that's coming in from everywhere now, like over-energized human beings, but all kinds of energized astral people and astral wildlife and higher dimensional beings that are here. Someone was saying in the 70s the U.S. government had categorized 51 different species of alien that have visited the planet. So I was just hearing recently.
Oh, the number's much higher than that now, but
I heard 250,000 species, give or take 10 or 20,000. Well, guess what? All of those guys, all they got to do is think about us, and they're basically astrally projecting here.
It's like sitting in a football stadium.
Absolutely. How many of them get lost here or disconnected or just leave an astral imprint that, say, some little parasite can now drive around? Like we're running into all of this. And I think, they're here watching us. And of course, they got bored teenagers sitting on board playing whatever little virtual reality games they're playing too, right?
It's like a Game Boy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? And we're the wee bowlers, I'm
glad somebody else remembers Game Boys.
So, I don't know. It's a pretty interesting time to be on the planet, I think. But it is for them too, and some of them are a bit bothersome. No offense.
No, but it was just interesting to hear you describing things that I don't think I've talked about some of this stuff before, but you were actually triggering me a little bit. But watching people and seeing the subtle shifts that they go through energetically, but even sometimes I will see humans ripple. And it's like it's like the energy field for a second deconstructs.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think that a lot of that's the veil shifting, and there's more than 7 chakras, and there's more than 3 or 4 different bodies, like Chris was saying. And I think we're moving between them at times without being consciously aware of it. And a lot of those ripples, I think, are probably that. Actually, you're changing your tuning, or the energy is caught of the earth rising in vibration. Instead of being 8.73 Schulman, it's 9.6 or whatever, and those little ripples are causing us to move in frequency into bodies that are already at that frequency. And if you're a sensitive person like yourself, you're seeing those shifts in people, and it's it's neat. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, as weird as all of this sounds and as horrible as it is to go through, if we're not forerunners for this coming age that we're moving into, because it looks to me like there is no real normal scenario anymore for what we're shifting into. And how do you feel about that? Because obviously, you're being exploited by forces beyond yourself, but at the same time, just talking to you, listening to the resonance of your voice and kind of sensing your field, I get the sense that despite all the madness, you somehow have managed to hold on to a core of yourself that's grounded.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think 99% of it is, as the energies move up, our abilities to manifest have increased way, way higher. And a lot of what we're manifesting is basically psychic garbage. Because it's happening in a thought world, but it's not going away like it used to. There's enough energy there to keep all those imprints going. And there's so much psychic garbage around. Half the shit pardon my language, half the stuff we're hearing.
Well, that's okay. We're not a family show.
Okay. Are just that. And I think there's a lot of different little parasitic beings out there that take over a lot of those imprints, or at least try and communicate through them. And they're networking all this stuff together, because I've run into stuff where all kinds of beings were actually linked together from through the solar plexus, basically coming out the back with another one attached right to the back of that, with another one attached to the back of them, with another one attached to the back of them. So I think they're networking up a bunch of this stuff, loose astral bodies, all kinds of stuff, and using that to either communicate or using it as a battery or whatever they're here doing. But I've been running into all kinds of neat but creepy stuff.
Neat but creepy stuff. That's awesome. That's wow. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. A lot of this stuff is things that I don't get a chance to have conversations about too often. So in a lot of ways, I feel like very interactive in this interview, and the listeners will pick that up. I feel stoned right now, which is awesome. Weird. I have not, but
It's a digital drug.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's pretty cool.
Isn't it? Yeah, it is.
The quality of your life, how do you view that, given everything that you've been through? If you could go back, live this life, and never have had these experiences, would you do that? Or do you feel like there was an acceptable trade-off for you to be able to kind of move into another level?
Well, it's acceptable as long as I can now get on with my life,
Right.
because I really feel over the last 10 years I haven't been the most productive member of society, because I've been kept so busy in this mental world where it was, it was impossible to really, have a job or anything like that. So I'm hoping that things are on the mend in that way. And I'm really looking to get more into the healing aspect, because at this time there's so much of this stuff going on and people are unraveling, becoming more and more psychic every day, and they're scared and they may not even know it because your mind picks up stuff that your brain doesn't necessarily pick up on a day-to-day basis. And it's there's trauma out there that you're not realizing, and it's weighing on people. So like, guys focusing on etheric hygiene for themselves and for other people are probably going to be kept fairly busy over the next number of years, I think, doing
etheric hygiene. An etheric hygienist. Well, is there a license for that, or good? There shouldn't be, but wow, that's
$195. I'll send you a patch.
There you go. That's kind of interesting stuff. On a personal level, you've kind of probably been isolated a lot with this. Did you have like any support along the way? Were you able to ever talk about this, or did you just kind of live with this in isolation?
No, I tried like the whole psychiatric route early on, and it was basically.
No, I meant interacting with actual humans, not doctors.
A few healers throughout that haven't been able to do anything for me, really. And and then meeting Chris in my own city blew my mind, because he is the etheric hygienist supreme right now in my life. So I'm a happy cat just knowing the guy, because he dragged me out of this and definitely helped me get grounded. And speaking of grounding, they had actually unhooked my grounding cable, which he helped me rehook, and definitely got me back down to earth. So yeah.
Explain a little bit about that, and Chris, feel free to jump in here if you want to add to this. Exactly, the whole grounding process and how that works.
The grounding process, like everybody talks about being grounded. Are you grounded? Of course you are. Your feet are on the ground. What we're talking about is an energetic ground. And there's a two-part system to that. Number one is the zero chakra, which is a chakra located 1 foot below your feet. That is a chakra that helps to ground you. Now, there's also another connection called the vivaxis. And it's an energetic connection that starts at the root chakra, and it goes through the zero chakra, and it grounds you to the earth. So that is something that is specifically needed if you're a person who does astral traveling, because if you're not grounded, you're going off into this astral world. You may not get back. You may just not come back at all, for lack of a better term. But being grounded on an energy level is extremely important. Now, there's also another ground that I work with, and that's our ground to the universe. Okay, or to the creator, or to heaven, whatever you want to call it. And that is an area in the hypothalamus in our brain called the well of souls. Uh-huh. That is your connection to the higher realms of consciousness. So you can be grounded up and down. So your poles are basically grounded. So that is a very important aspect that I work on with everybody, is to make sure that your grounding points are there.
Excellent. That's a great explanation. Boy, there's a lot of data in all of that I've got to wrap my head around. Because I had never thought about it on that level. I was thinking, well, I'm pretty grounded. I go out in earth almost every day just to get in contact with terra firma. But it's bigger than that.
It is much bigger than that, and it's those specific connections are the important ones. Now, if there is a demonic figure that is trying to get at you, of course it's going to try and get at you through your ground. So that ground could be attached to a different dimension. It could be plugged into a different energy matrix, different energy grid, where you think you're grounded in the right spot, but you're really not. And with the work that I'm doing, I'm able to find out exactly where it's plugged into, what it's siphoning from. Is it plugged into a black hole and siphoning all your energy? So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Not just are you grounded, but where are you grounded to? Are you grounded to the right place? Are you grounded in the right dimension? A lot of things to consider.
When you were talking earlier about going astral, there are times, and I'm very aware of my sleep states. I do very specific types of meditation and practices that, things I've learned, things I've picked up, things I intuitively do. but I've noticed over the last few years that it's more pronounced than in the morning. I'm having a very difficult time sometimes with reentry.
You need to reground yourself, and we could easily find that out very quickly if you're properly grounded. Are you traveling in a different body than your astral body? There's so many things to consider, but we could easily figure that out, not a problem.
One of the best ways I found to get back in is just wiggle your fingers and your toes, and you'll wake up back in your body in about 3 seconds.
I have that sensation. The other thing is that sometimes I'm not sure I want to come back. I wake up sometimes and I'm like actually bummed. That sounds horrible. I'm not suicidal. I don't want to die or leave this body. It's just that I'm aware that wherever I've been is someplace very incredible. It's very difficult to come back into 3D.
Absolutely. It's easier out there than it is here, but we're still in school.
It is.
We haven't gotten our graduation papers yet, so.
That is an interesting analogy, and it's one that I hear a lot, and I hear it especially from people that have had contact experiences, that they're aware of the fact that we are basically in some sort of accelerated course that's teaching us something, that this is a hard world to live in.
It is.
Well, we're here for one big reason, and that is to learn things. And we're reincarnated all the time because we need to get it right. We need to clear up our karmic debt. A lot of different things come into play as to exactly the whole reason why our silly little humans are here on this stinking little planet. What's the whole significance of it? And there's so many different scenarios that fly, but not one of them is definitely to relearn a lesson or to get it right.
I have the sense, and since we kind of treaded over into this subject, I've had the sense for some time that this cycle that we're in is, and don't ask me where I got this, the word penultimate came up, which means next to last. Now, I have a sense about what that means, but maybe you have nothing, or maybe you can help me understand this. I have the sense that there's a finality to the cycle that we're in right now, both in terms of the planet, galactically, and in terms of even certain soul groups.
That is something I haven't really come across as yet. There's so many different scenarios that do fly around about the whole thing. We watched a video, Whisper 9, is called The Lie NASA Told. And
Which one?
Which one?
No, I have not seen this one yet.
It really makes you think again. I mean, as energy people like us, we think we got a good handle on things, and we know a lot more than what a lot of other people might know. But then you watch this video, and it sure puts things way out of proportion as to where you think you are and what the universe is all about and what is really going on. So if you want to spin your head around 40 or 50 times and watch this video, The Lie NASA Told on YouTube is pretty incredible.
I will have to look that up.
The Solo Space Wars from basically 2004 or 2007, and then I think it also shows stuff actually happening April of this year about different gates and fights for different gates within our own solar system.
Yeah, and some of that is information that's kind of been leaking out for a number of years. The idea of the space wars, which actually I think are occurring almost within our own ionosphere at times, is a reason that information's been leaking out slowly. But there's somebody out on the West Coast, and I wish I could remember the guy's name now. I got the information, who was actually able to photograph this using some pretty extraordinary equipment.
Yeah, a lot of those photographs are in that video, actually.
Okay, this is probably the same people that I was in contact with a few years ago. And that's pretty real. I mean, look, if you still disbelieve that we're not in some kind of war zone here, that certainly brings it all right home.
Absolutely. Okay, how do I know there's a war on Saturn? Okay, my guides start telling me, giving me this information. I start working on it within people and removing it, and all of a sudden things change within their physicality and their pain goes away. So that makes you believe, okay, there's got to be something to it. There is some kind of etheric war going on, and we're somehow linked and connected to it in one way, shape, or form. So anything is possible. Give me a break. Anything at all is possible when you're thinking about stuff going on in the universe. So when you start seeing photographs and video of things happening on the sun at different levels with different filters that they use, well, then it sure makes you open your eyes a bit wider and look in a different direction as to really what is going on within our own dimension.
Well, it's even the sun. It's not what we think it is it? It's we have it as this hot gaseous ball, but there's actually something much more intricate about the sun itself as being the sun that we see, not even going into the whole secret sun, hidden sun, all the other aspects, the dimensional aspects of the galactics.
Yeah, within this video, there's a NASA scientist who's sitting in his car, and he doesn't want anybody to see that he's being interviewed, and he's talking that if you're not on the planet, you can't see the sun. There is no sun. They talk about the sun being hollow. What I believe the sun is actually a big chakra, a big portal for multidimensional travel.
Yes, yeah, and that's actually, I don't know if you've ever seen the work, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there of electromagnetic vehicles. They're like triangular vehicles that have been spotted. There's a NASA scientist, Dr. Norman Bergrund, who years ago, this guy's very aged now, but wrote a book about Saturn and these electromechanical vehicles that were being spotted in the rings. Now, it's interesting, you just triggered that whole thing with Saturn, and here we are, we're back at this again, so I guess this needs to just be aired. There's something very trippy going on there.
There certainly is, and like I said, you look at the wars in the Middle East, you look at all that turmoil, and that as above, so below comes into play right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the pyramids have got to be not just the pyramids in Egypt, but the ancient pyramids in South America. We know about grids and we know about ley lines on the Earth, which all seem to have some sort of mapping system connected to the galaxy itself.
It exactly is, and the universe, that everything is all connected in its own way. From all the cells within our body that connect us and build us to what we are, to everything around us is we're all connected in one way, shape, or form. Ashiana Dean calls it a Partiki grid, with all these different geometrical forms all piecing together to create the entire universe. So the consciousness is actually one, but separate in its own little way. So that's another aspect, another way to look at it.
Wow, we've certainly managed to rotate the conversation in some pretty interesting places. I will say that, guys. Whisper, is there anything else you'd like to touch on in terms of your own experiences, or expand a little bit on the work that you're doing now?
Well, basically, with the work I'm doing now is healing work, and basically I've just been doing mine for free. I've been setting up shop sort of in like our little Times Square, and just doing free energy healings for anyone who walks up, and using a bunch of similar tools to Chris there. Tons and tons of different entity attachments seem to be happening with people, and a lot of it's just etheric cleanup, and you can see their mood change right in front of you once you start doing it. And that's with what I've been through, this unraveling process, or becoming more psychic or more aware, or whatever you want to call it, has been scary as hell. And I think everyone now is pretty much kind of being forced to have it happen to them. And people are unraveling, is what I call it. And there's sort of an underlying fear behind it, because subconsciously you know what's going on, even if you're not totally conscious of everything. And I don't know, it's my mission kind of seems to be going in that direction, just helping people through this sort of transitional phase, because I do think it's gonna stabilize. Like as we're moving up in vibration, they're saying we're moving to the 5th dimension. The door on the 3rd dimension is coming to a close, so we're not so much in the past or in the future as far as our mindset. We're in present time, and as we get closer to the 5th dimension, our aspects of being able to manifest become greater and greater. But right now we're manifesting all kinds of psychic stuff that we're only partially aware of, but we're creating all kinds of rubble out there, and it kind of needs to be cleaned up. And the rubble that's sticking to people is basically what I'm sort of making as my mission at this particular point in time. So that's kind of where I am. You know, eventually it's going to be, you want an apple and the apple appears. But right now you want an apple and the apple appears, except you can't see it, but maybe the little ghosty guy beside you sees it. So, you know, that's what we're moving into.
Well, you raise an interesting point. People are becoming unraveled, and you know, those of us on this call tonight are very out of the box, as you know, Chris has termed it being very out of the box in his healing techniques, but we all are. And we're also people that on one level or another kind of, you know, have experienced being broken. And the unraveling of people, the sickest people I encounter right now are the people who are never going to have the kind of conversation that we're having right now.
Or be aware of even what's going on.
Exactly. And yet I have sat across the desk from somebody and watched them go through endless facial tic shifts, energy shifts, face warping, pixelation, all of the stuff that we talked about.
Yeah.
And yet that person is presented as being perfectly normal. And I know, and this is not a judgment, it is an assessment. I know that that person is dealing with horrific stuff.
Absolutely, but it's happening outside of the conscious mind. But you know what? When it happens in your subconscious or your superconscious aspects, somewhere inside you know it's happening. And, you know, people are miserable because of it, I think. And a lot of the, you know, you can, you know, try and dull yourself down and, you know, drink as much fluoride as you can and maybe tune it out. But basically...
you see a suicide
showers popping up right now, and you know I see myself in that role because I've been through a lot. And if I sat there and told my story to everybody, I'd get a lot of stupid looks. But if someone who's obviously distressed walks up to me and I'm sitting in a circle and I can clean up their aura and balance out their chakra system and send them on their way, and they throw me a cigarette or buy me a coffee, I'm a happy cat right now. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. So, yeah.
Well, I don't think there's going to be enough healers for the cleanup crew as this thing finally does kick in. I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like. I have kind of a premonition about things, but I can tell you that based on what I see day to day, every person who can get healed and then become a healer is going to be an asset overall to the entire planet, because the breakdown of humanity is just profound now. I mean, suicides are off the scale, murders, massive amounts of really horrible drug use. You see it in the culture itself and the way the culture has been debauched.
Right.
And so, you know, for people who are going through this, and, you know, this audience will relate to this pretty well. We all probably need to step up our game a little bit right now.
Absolutely. Every family needs a healer. And there's usually one freaky or one that's going to, you know, take it on.
Yeah. I know it's the freaks you got to look at, man. It's the normal people that they're in for a world of hurt right now, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. The times they are a-changing.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of gone around the whole spectrum of things that we wanted to talk about tonight. If anybody has anything else they want to bring up, be heard saying, please chime in at this point.
Here's what I tell everybody. There's a lot of information that's being talked about tonight. how do you know what's true? How do you know what's real? How do you know what's really out there? What I always tell everybody is think with your heart, feel with your heart. Don't try and logically try to evaluate everything. If it feels good in your heart, then it is. And that's not the same for everybody. Everybody's going to be different in their own ascension and their own consciousness about different things. When I work on different people with the same problems, it's all for different reasons. If you need to decide if something is right for you, think with your heart. Does it feel good in your heart? Yes, it does. Then go for it.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Chris, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and sharing all of the things that you're doing, your services that are out there. The website, again, is chriskehler.net. And Chris has all of his services up there, how you can contact him. Geez, I'm impressed that you can schedule your own appointment. Try that at a medical facility. That's awesome. And Whisper, look, this was a brave move. Even though you're using an anonymous name tonight, you've put your voice out there. And I know the power of the resonance of the voice. You have placed a testimony on the record that people are going to hear as we put this out. And I want to thank you. I salute you for stepping forward and sharing your story and being absolutely open and amazingly honest, and yet at the same time charmingly freaky. I love it.
Charmingly freaky.
Thanks a lot for hooking up the wires, for getting us all together tonight. This is a fun conversation. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
It was spirited, wasn't it?
It was. It was excellent. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up. This has been Off Planet Radio. You can find us at offplanetradio.com, offplanetradio.net. We're stabilizing websites, too, by the way. That's been in drift for way too long now, but by this weekend, we'll be all plugged back in, and you can just go to offplanetradio.com. I'm Randy Moggins. The truth is out there. It's inside you. You better start looking for it now. It's about to get weird. Bye-bye.
You are listening to Off Planet Radio at offplanetradio.net and offplanetradio.com.
As he does with the free slave, taxing these rap cats like need a maze. The DJs say, give me the cash up front or else you get no service, no FaceTime or airplay. They running biz like a cellular prepaid. No matter, I spit that sick ill shit to drill you, teach you, then I get shy.